Holy City Center Radio. It is episode 61, and we've got yet another good one. As always, this week's guest is Suzanne Pollak. She is the head of development for the Charleston Literary Festival. Can't tell from the title of that event. It is a multi-day celebration here in Charleston that has to do with poets and authors and books and all things literary. It is going to be a blast. It is coming up soon. I believe this is the 6th or 7th year. I forget officially, COVID kind of threw things off and made things virtual, but back in person this year from November 4th to the 13th. Multiple venues in town, multiple events. A lot of them are discussions with authors and journalists and you name it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and some big names will be there. I'll let Suzanne fill you all in on the details because we don't have much in the show, just the interview this week. So we're not going to waste too much time, and we're just going to dive into the details. CharlestonLiteraryFestival.com. You're going to want to pull it up and look at some of these events we're talking about and start planning out your trip, I guess, downtown, or your visit to that area and whatever events you want to go to. There's all sorts of ticket options. Obviously, you can do just one event, couple of events. They also have an all-session pass where you get into all the events. There's parties. So, yeah, I think it's, although it's been here for a little while, I think it's still kind of new in people's minds and they don't know a whole lot about it. Or maybe this is the first time you're hearing about it. But it should be a lot of fun. But like I said, I don't need to tell you that. Let's let Suzanne give you all the details. So without wasting any more time, let's dive into the interview now. Joining me now is my guest, as promised. It is Suzanne Pollak. She is the head of development for the Charleston Literary Festival. I'm excited to hear more about this year's event and share with all of you some of the background of this event and what's coming up. But Suzanne, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Christian.
Oh, no problem.
Looking forward to speaking.
Yes, me too. I'm excited to hear about it. Before we get into the big event that's coming up here, if you could just let my listeners know a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what brought you to Charleston, anything you think kind of explains who you are.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Suzanne Pollak, and I'm the director of development and the party planner because we have lots of parties connected with the Literary Festival. And I moved to Charleston full-time in 2010. And I grew up in Africa. I went to like 12 schools growing up. And if I had been able to go to a literary festival when I was growing up of this caliber, I think my whole life would be a little bit different to be exposed to some of the best writers in the world. But anyway, I love living in Charleston. Of all the places I've lived in the world, which is so many, Charleston is my favorite.
Oh, great. Love to hear it. That's so great that you've been able to travel and have those experiences. But you may not have had this literary festival as when you were growing up, but you're now a big part of this festival here in Charleston. So for those who may not know, this event's been around for a handful of years already. But what exactly is the Charleston Literary Festival? Well,
it started 6 years ago, and it was started by we have two parents, the Charleston Library Society and the Charleston Farmhouse in Sussex, England. Now we're our own 501c3, but they're the ones together that started it. And the real treasure behind this literary festival is a woman in London named Diana Reich, who's the artistic director. And she is the person that chooses all the authors and their interlocutors, the people they have conversations with. And she did this for the Charleston Farmhouse Literary Festival in England for like 30 years. And it was her idea. At the beginning, instead of having an author read from a book and give a lecture to an audience, to have two people on stage and one just talking about the book or whatever they want to talk about. And it's a fabulous idea because you feel like you're listening in to some of the most interesting conversations, and then you get to ask questions for the last 15 minutes of the hour.
Very cool. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the history because the original name involved the whole Charleston to Charleston name.
Right.
And I always thought that connection to England was really fascinating. So I don't know how much you know about that area, but so there's I forget what the word you use to describe it, but not a town, but like a section of a town, right, in London that has the name Charleston, and then
it's the Charleston Farmhouse in Sussex, England, and the Bloomsbury Group used to hang out there. And so this festival, their festival started like 35 years ago, and it's considered one of the finest small literary festivals in Europe.
Very
And that's
cool.
and Diana is the one that started that. Diana Reich, who is our artistic director now, but
And
she works from London.
oh, very cool. And so did she must have,
Mm-hmm.
she's heard of Charleston, South Carolina, and must have reached out to someone and said, hey, I think we might have a cool thing to connect our two, different areas together. We have the
Yeah,
same name and we have a chance
the
to kind of
founder there.
collaborate. Yeah.
That's right. The founder did thought, they wanted to have an international presence, so they look around and think, oh, Charleston, South Carolina, it makes sense. And so that's how it happened.
That's really cool. And so, all right, so we have lots to talk about in regards to this year's event now that we kind of understand the history and everything. So I guess first, like what sort of events can people expect? I know you mentioned one type of event, but that's not all. There's also all sorts of parties and things going on. So what can folks expect this year?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Some of the best people writing in the world today are coming. That's the main thing. There's 28 events. There's 3 virtual ones, and all the rest are in person, which we're super excited about now.
Yes.
And the first weekend it runs from November 4th through the 13th. So the first weekend's at the Circular Church, and then from a few days later it moves over to Dock Street through the 13th. But we have all kinds of people. So no matter what you're interested in, there's something for you. If you're interested in utopian societies or history or gender or, fiction, science, medicine, there's something for everybody. Page turners, scallywags. There's just something for everybody. And what's really cool is I suggest that people go to as many as possible. We've kept the price. We've never changed the price of each session is $25.
Oh, okay.
Actually, two of them have sold out, so people need to really get on it.
Yes.
But you learn things. You might realize, I didn't know I'd be interested in that, but I am. And you don't have to read the books before you come. You can, but or you can just listen and then you decide, I want to read this and that and this, but not that. But it's a fabulous. I feel like it gives you a brain buzz.
That makes sense. Yeah, you're hearing these like really well-known authors, and I'm sure the conversations are, have moments of being super intellectual and make you think and reevaluate some things and educational. So yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
Some are just funny.
Yeah,
some are
sure.
And this year, what's one very exciting thing is if you're interested in poetry, it's T.S. Eliot's 100th anniversary, and so there's 2 events connected with T.S. Eliot, and one is the reading of The Wasteland, which out loud, which even if you've never read T.S. Eliot before, it's going to be so cool to hear him outside by Edward Ballerini, and he's supposed to be an amazing reader. He's widely regarded as like one of the brightest stars of the audio book era. So he's going to come and read out loud on Sunday, November 13th at Dock Street, and he's going to read The Wasteland.
Those venues too that you mentioned, those are some great venues to see anything in, but it should be fantastic for this. You mentioned Circular Congregational Church, Dock Street. I mean, these are historic and really cool venues as well.
Correct. That's right. It adds to the whole charm of this. A lot of the authors say this is, in the past, they've said their favorite literary festival is the one in Charleston.
Oh, wow.
Because of these historic venues, and also because of the social events and the time in between each session. There's an hour. They get to talk to the audience and their readers, and they love doing that instead of just going to a big, huge auditorium and then go back on a plane. But they hang around for a few days, these authors.
Oh, that's got to be great for the
who
attendees,
doesn't want to
too.
hang around Charleston?
Yeah, well, yeah, that too.
It is great.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody, not just the authors, the people going there must be thrilled to, maybe meet some of their literary heroes, favorite authors, whatever it may be. That's got to be really exciting to have that kind of personal time with some of the, folks that are coming in to, kind of headline this festival.
That's right. The party. So there's an opening party on November 5th, Saturday, November 5th. And the authors will come to that. So you could come to that party and meet authors. That party, the opening party, is open to the public, and the tickets are available. And it's a dance, and it's dinner, and it's drinks, and it's at the College of Charleston in front of the Charleston Library. Because what better place to have a party for a literary festival in front of a library? And we have a world-class band coming. Wycliffe Gordon, who's known as the best trombonist in the world, is bringing his international all-stars. And usually you would hear them like at Lincoln Center, but now you can go dance to them. And so I was super excited about that. And so you never know who you're going to be standing next to at these parties. And then you think, oh, I just heard you talk this afternoon. Like Tina Brown's coming on Saturday, that before the festival, so she'll probably be at the party.
That's really cool.
I hope everybody in town. I hope everybody in Charleston comes to this party.
And so we've mentioned a couple of the events, and you've mentioned a couple names. Who are some of the other names that might jump out to people who are listening? That you think. I mean, again, there's a wide list, lots of amazing authors, but just a handful of you think that people would really be interested in.
Well, one book that's very popular is called Horse by Geraldine Brooks, and it is a page turner. And she has written a lot of books that have been on the bestseller list. So she's coming, Geraldine Brooks. Hernan Diaz is this amazing book. It's called Trust, and it is kind of like in right now. It's fiction, and it takes place in the 1920s, but it goes back and forth, and it's about finance and really the subject of trust. There's another book about the Gilded Age, which is before the 1920s, written by Betsy Prelow, who's local, and she's going to be speaking with Tina Brown, who wrote Palace Papers. And that her book is about the Gilded Age, Betsy Prelow's, and about a woman publisher, which was unheard of then, whose mother was a slave. And she was poor. When she died, she had $22 million in like 1906 in those days. And she gave it to the women's suffrage movement. Wow. There's Jean Ann Corlitz, who's a bestseller. Some of her stuff has been made into movies, and she wrote The Latecomer. It's about test tube triplets. It's a fascinating book. There's a book by Marie Brenner, who was a very well-known Vanity Fair writer, and she's going to be talking about her book is Desperate Hours, and it's about hospital system during COVID in New York City. So that will be Margot Jefferson is a Pulitzer Prize winning author. She wrote a biography about Michael Jackson. She wrote Negroland, and she came maybe 5 years ago. She's amazing. And she wrote a book about the artist who made me, a memoir. So I think that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. Amazing list I was going through and just seeing
more and more.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's so many. You could, basically could run down the whole lineup, I'm sure. And it's amazing.
One that's very, very timely right now, and I hope parents go to this, and it's a book about Sandy Hook.
Yes, that's exactly what I was about to bring up because I was looking at it.
Yeah. Elizabeth Williamson wrote it, and it is getting talked about everywhere. And our own executive editor of the a Post and Courier, Autumn Phillips, is going to be her interlocutor. I mean, that's very timely right now with what just happened with Alex Jones having to pay billions of dollars. That's going to be an amazing one. And then another one that's going to be so timely is Tim Bouvier is talking to Jennifer Griffin, who's a national security correspondent. She goes with the Secretary of State and the Defense Secretary to the Ukraine. Tim Bouvier wrote about Hitler and Putin, the road to war. And so they're going to be talking about the parallels today and from Hitler's time to now with Putin.
Wow. No, you're right. When you were saying there's kind of something for everyone, like you said, there's fiction, there's historical things, there's not just historical, but recent history, things that are happening, as you mentioned, like the Sandy Hook stuff just is even more relevant right now. And what you were just talking about with Ukraine and the relations to the past. So, there really is. If you don't want to get into the heavy stuff, you want to avoid the news and, stuff like that. Yeah, you go check out one of these other events where, the focus might be on something else that's more your speed. But But even when you listen to these heavy things, to hear two people in person that are brilliant talking about it, and then you yourself and the audience have an opportunity to ask a question or meet them afterwards in the donor lounge. There's another little book I love by Jeffrey Harpham. He is amazing. He's a professor at Duke. He's brilliant. And he's going to be talking about Porgy and Bess. Okay. And he just wrote a book called what is the name of his book? I'm just reading it right now. Citizenship on Catfish Row. It's a fantastic book, and Jeffrey Harpham is just brilliant. So that's another one, which is the last event actually on Sunday, November 13th. Yeah, I don't think I even mentioned it yet at the top. I mean, I'm sure I will in the intro and everything, but the festival is going to be from November 4th to the 13th. So, basically 10 days worth of events that you can check out. It's not just a weekend, so whatever your schedule is, there's something that will probably fit into it, regardless of what your hours are at work and things like that. Besides, go ahead.
Christian, I had to tell you about one other thing,
yes,
because
please.
one other one is so fantastic. And now, where did I just put this? I want to make sure I tell you. Oh, Marcus Amaker, Charleston's own poet laureate, is talking to the UK former poet laureate, and he was chosen by the Queen, and he was like for 20 years the poet laureate in England, and they're going to be speaking.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. I love that too. The whole Charleston, South Carolina to Charleston, Sussex, England thing is really fascinating to me. And I love that there's that connection. I think that's cool that it's still continuing, now, not just from, that first year or two, that's still very much a part of the event. I think that's really a neat collaboration. Now, we've mentioned, most of the events are going to be, as you said, two folks in conversation about whatever topic or a particular topic and books and things. And there is that opening night party. Is there any other types of events that people can expect or can get involved in, or are those kind of the opening night party and then the discussions?
The opening night party, then coming, and then hanging out in between sessions. You can meet an author. We also have a companion radio show called Unabridged on Ohm Radio.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And that's been going on for a few weeks, and it's going to continue on Wednesdays from 4:30 to 5 when we talk about the sessions or we interview somebody. I think one of the coolest things to do is get a friend, because this is all about having conversations and connections and community, reading a book and talking about it, not just absorbing it by yourself. So get a friend and go on the website and figure out, let's just do this together. And then we have our academic partner, the College of Charleston. So some of our interlocutors are from the College of Charleston, and also we've given tickets to students. And the other partner we have, who's just fabulous, is our own independent bookseller, Buxton Books.
Oh yeah, they're great on King Street.
Yeah, I love them. Yeah, Polly Buxton. But I think it's really fun to go with one friend or a few friends and do a few of these or all of them. These things, and then buy tickets to the opening party. There's more parties for donors, but we're going to start having more things for the public to come.
Yeah, before I spoke to you, I was speaking with someone else involved with the festival, and they mentioned a couple things. And one was donor parties, and said that maybe we could chat about that as well. So for donor parties, for people who might be interested in the future, that's something that can be done, donate to the festival and be able to partake in these parties as well. Yes,
and what's cool about these parties is they're in people's homes, in these 18th century homes. So in their gardens, in their homes, and the authors all come. So it's a little smaller setting, so you're able to talk to people. The parties, I just love parties. Yeah. I also I have another business that's about cooking and parties, and so I love planning these parties. Because we want to make this is such a great way to make connections with people about ideas and conversations, and so it's nice when you have these going to these sessions, but then if you continue later at night to either go with your friends and talk about it, or go to a party and talk about what you heard, and just making connections with people. I've seen over the last 6 years, many people become friends because they met at the festival.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, you're right, too. Any event, whether it's literary or anything, concerts, anything, the second best thing to the actual event is discussing it after with your friend or, partner, whoever you went with, and recapping and going over it. And so imagine whoever you go to see, you then get to go to the party and see that person that you were just, seeing on stage and stuff. So it's got to be really cool.
I totally agree with you. That's one of the best things, is stretching the experience and also stretching it beforehand. Like the planning beforehand of, who you're going to go with, which ones you're going to see, where we're going to meet up, are we going to have lunch beforehand? It's the whole planning process before, and then recapping after, and the event itself. And so you like stretch enjoyable time, which I'm all for.
Absolutely. And I mean, you being involved and being head of development and planning a lot of these events, I mean, this is what you're doing year round probably, right? Just stretching out the festival and, helping plan the types of things that you want to do in the next one.
That's so true. That's really true. It takes to put on a festival like this for 10 days. the amount of work is amazing. What Diana does in London to get these kind of authors and, to get everybody's schedules and to get the interlocutors, and then the marketing that goes on and the PR that goes on and the fundraising, all of it. And the board does a ton of work. It is enormous amount of work. It's hard to describe, what goes on through this. Mm-hmm.
It's hard
with
enough.
A very small staff. There's only like 4 of us.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's hard enough to get my friends to do stuff on time, let alone plan a whole event and, world-renowned authors, Pulitzer Prize winners. Yeah, it's got to be a little tough.
Yeah, Christian, I hope you're going to be coming to this. I'm going to be expecting to see you.
Absolutely. I will be at least a handful of these events, I believe. I was looking at the schedule, and once I know for sure what I'm going to, I'll definitely let the listeners and everybody know, and I'll recap as well.
And let me know, because I didn't say about the donors, but there's also donor lounges, which is super fun, because between the sessions, you can just go and hang out and have a drink or a sandwich or whatever, and then meet other donors, meet other people. The authors hang out in there. The authors have their own green rooms, but they never go to their green rooms. They hang out in the donor lounge, and it's so cool. So if you're there, you let me know, and I'll bring you in a donor lounge.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
But we're always looking for donors, because this really helps the city of Charleston. This is an important cultural event. It's important to the city. In fact, this year, Imani Perry's book was chosen by the mayor for a city read program together. Everybody to read it together, and it's called South to America, A Journey Below the Mason-Dixon to Understand the Soul of a Nation. I'm reading it right now. It's another book I'm reading right now, and it's fascinating. It's beautifully written. Imani Perry teaches African-American history at Harvard. And so the whole city is supposed to read this book and then come to the festival, come and hear her. Now all the seats are full, but there'll also be screenings, so you'll be able to see it if you come.
Oh, very like a live stream that you can watch.
Yeah, like a live stream, right? And we gave the tickets were free as a gift to the city, so that's why they filled up so fast. But it's an important part of the city, and it's really cool for the city to read a book together.
Yeah, that's a really neat idea. Yeah, I like that. Kind of going back to the, sharing an experience with people and talking about it and discussing ideas, what you thought about certain parts. It kind of goes back to what you were talking about with the after parties and things, kind of recapping, and it's cool that you can have a lot of people in the city be able to do that at one time.
It's a way to knit a community together of very diverse people and ages and everybody together. We're all doing something. And so it makes the city more like a family or more cohesive. It's a tightly knit community if we do things together.
Yes, and we could use as much of that as we can do in these days. As much as we can bring communities together is for is for the best, for sure. You mentioned donors. There's other opportunities I saw on the website. You guys take volunteers as well. So if anyone's listening, are there still opportunities for that?
Yes, definitely. There's opportunities for volunteers. We love our volunteers. We love them. Some of them come every year, volunteer every year.
What sort of opportunities?
There's a way on the website. Well, I am not the expert on volunteers, but there's people taking tickets at the beginning, showing people to their seats. Even some people deal with the authors, and if they need a drive somewhere, if they need to be picked up. So there's many things.
Cool.
At the parties, we need volunteers. They usually use college students, but there's many opportunities for volunteers.
And you were about to say, and I didn't mean to cut you off, to go to the website if you're interested.
Go to the website, and you can email from there, and then somebody will get either me or somebody that knows more about volunteers will get a hold of you.
Speaking of the website, it's charlestonliteraryfestival.com. Where else, regardless of if they just want information on events, volunteer, whatever it may be, the website's probably the best spot, but I believe you guys have social media platforms as well that they can probably check out.
Yeah, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
All that stuff. Very good. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet in relation to the event that you think is important or you want to highlight for anybody who's listening that maybe I just haven't touched on, or anything else?
Christian, you did a great job. I just want to tell people, get a book buddy and come and get a brain buzz. And look at the festival, see which ones you want to go to, take some chances and go to things you wouldn't even think you're interested in, and make yourself known. Come find me or somebody that works, and we want to hear what you have to say, what you'd like to see, what you think, what your experience was like. It's really important for us. And if you can't come to everything, way afterwards, I don't know when, they'll all be on YouTube. And all the sessions in the past that were filmed are also on YouTube. So
That's
you can,
great.
Yeah.
That's great that people can see it after. And well, and especially some of the events are already sold out, like you said, but ticket prices aren't too bad. Like you said, you keep them at $25. That's fairly affordable for most folks, which is great. A lot of festivals in town. Sometimes they have really high prices and people feel priced out. So I think that's really great too. So lots of opportunities. If you can't make it this year, like you were just saying, you can catch some of these on YouTube and things. And sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to attending. I haven't attended yet, so I'm excited, and I'm sure people listening are too.
This is going to be your first year.
Yeah, it'll be my first time attending any events, even though I was certainly interested in the past, but just couldn't make it work schedule-wise. But we'll be able to this year, and I'll be sure to report back in my first episode after to talk about what fun I had, because I'm sure it'll be a blast. So I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. Charleston Literary Festival sounds like it's going to be awesome this year. We'll have links, in the bio and everything for people listening, so they can quickly click over and get more details. But Suzanne, I thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you, Christian.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
And anytime.
Love talking with you.
You as well. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
And that is it for episode 61. Thank you to everyone who listened. As always, I really, really appreciate it. Thanks to Suzanne, of course, for joining the show and letting us know all about the Charleston Literary Festival. If any of you decide to attend, let me know. Hopefully I'll run into you at some events, and we'll have a lot of good times. Maybe we'll discuss the book just like Suzanne said, and maybe make some new friendships while I'm there. We'll see. But thank you for listening. Thank you to Lindsay Marie Collins for producing Holy City Center Radio. She is with LMC Sound System and F&B Radio, a local podcast. Thank you to Tyler Boone, musician and bourbon enthusiast extraordinaire. The music you hear in each and every episode is from Tyler. And as I mentioned, time is running out to invest in his Boone's bourbon. It definitely is a company on the rise. So who knows? You can go look into that at startengine.com. And if you are interested in supporting the show in many ways, there are many ways to do it, I should say. One, of course, is to rate and review this podcast if your platform lets you do that. If not, share this podcast. Let someone know about it if you think they may be interested. Same with anything on the website. Share, likes, retweets, all that good stuff helps out all the time. If you want to go that extra mile, you can go to patreon.com/holycitycenter or holycitycenter.com/shop. Those are some great ways to help out as well. Until next time, the next episode, as always, good night and good luck.